All right, it's this week's Wrestling Perspective podcast. We're on the cusp of Friday Night SmackDown. We're actually recording this before it airs. So
right on the cusp.
You like that? Did that build drama?
It's so much drama. I can't tell you how excited I am. I was laid back, very relaxed in my chair, but since you said on the cusp, I'm now on the edge of my seat.
Boy, that's the most smoothest lie I've ever heard from you.
No, I'm completely still relaxed back in my chair, but we can pretend. Little theater of the mind here for everybody.
I like what you did there. Anyways, Eli Drake, Dennis Farrell, this week's Wrestling Perspective. We're a little late. That was my fault. You'll hear about it in the Blue Chew ad, as they would say.
It was kind of both of us.
I think it was more me than both of us. I'll take the bullet for this one, Eli.
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, I was just getting back from Atlanta for the NWA tapings on Wednesday, so that was kind of a stuffed day. And then yesterday was just kind of catching up with life. So, yeah, I mean, we both carry the brunt. You know what? I'm a fair man. Firm but fair. With the help of Blue Chew. Oh, boy.
Early and often on the show. So let's...
well, since you mentioned it. Anyway.
Let's start with the NWA tapings. I got to pick your brain about that. Then we'll go into the AEW show and then maybe a little bit of Friday Night SmackDown, which if you're listening to this on Monday, hopefully whatever we say came true and makes us sound smart. But we didn't
Is SmackDown in LA tonight?
I'm not sure.
I think, you see, I'm so confused because I'm good friends with Buddy Murphy, and he hit me up maybe like a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, mate, you want to go to Vegas? I'm going to be in town for SmackDown." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And then I was like, "Well, wait a minute. SmackDown's not in Vegas. It's in LA," because I think I know people who have tickets. So I'm like, okay, well, are we going tomorrow or the next day? And now I haven't heard from him for the last couple of days. So I know what he's going to do. He's going to last minute me, and he's going to be like, "Oh, mate, all right, I'm on my way to Vegas. You coming?" And I'm like, "Well, son of a bitch, you didn't give me a chance to make any plans." But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not sure if they're in LA. I think they're in LA. But who knows?
So let's start with the NWA tapings. The set is amazing. I geeked out when I saw the early production photos come out. Did it have the old school WCW or NWA feel when you walked in?
It did, and I just posted a picture on my Instagram earlier today from a fan's perspective anyway, looking down at the interview set. And really, although when you were in the back, depending on the viewpoint, if you were looking at like hard cam view, it definitely looked like a very updated version of that old school, what was it, NWA Power Hour. And it was just kind of cool to look at. But also, if you saw the other set pieces, it almost looked like a game show with wrestling in it. It was really kind of cool. And it was really different what we did because I'll be honest, one thing that was really daunting at first, just the thought of it, was that we heard there was going to be no entrance music. Nobody has entrance music.
What?
And in this day and age, we're also used to that. We said exactly what you just said. We were like, what? We're like, this is going to be awful. How are we going to do this? It ended up being awesome. I couldn't believe how well it went over. It was almost like the people kind of became our music because they were so reactive. The people were so reactive. I thought they were paid to be there. It turns out they all paid actually pretty good amount of money for the tickets. I think it was like $100 a ticket or something like that. But they reacted like they were being paid. It was crazy. I had a match that was just no story to it, no nothing. I think I hit a guy with a move, and it got a bit of a reaction. But then me just turning and looking at the crowd, half of everybody stood up and like was yelling. It was such a live, reactive crowd that like I haven't seen. And with no music, the entrances become very short. And one of my favorite parts of wrestling was always the music and the entrances and stuff like that. But in this show, it actually works to not have like a big drawn out entrance. It actually helps the flow of the show move a lot smoother. It moves along a little quicker. Even the tapings themselves moved along nicely because of it, because there's not this big, drawn out lead up. But, of course, when we get to like the bigger shows, we get to pay-per-views and stuff like that, we're going to have that stuff. But for the studio show, it's all just straightforward. It's like, get in the ring, get to what you're doing, or get to the interview set and do what you're doing. And it was not the handicap that I think a lot of us expected it to be.
You see, you still have to sell me on this because part of what I enjoy about wrestling is that pomp and circumstance of the entrance.
Me too.
Are they dubbing it in post-production?
No, the people's reaction. It's just like the old NWA Power Hour. Like they didn't have entrance music on those shows. Like when Flair would come out to the podium to talk, he just walked out. They just introduced him, or when any of the guys got in the ring to wrestle, they just came out and they wrestled. And again, I thought when they told me, I'm not going to be able to sell it to you, because me telling you, when they told us, we were all like, this is going to be awful. I told my girlfriend, and she was like, that sounds terrible. And then the show happened, and we did it, and both the audience and the boys were all just like, wow, that actually went really well, because it was almost like the people were our music, because they were so reactive. It was like the second you hit the curtain, it was like, bah, big pop. Or big boo, or big whatever it was for whomever it was. It was surprisingly very effective and incredibly unique.
Was there anything else they told you that you guys didn't kind of feel like wait a second, we're doing what?
Not that I can think of offhand, but I mean, I know that like most of the guys, for the most part, are used to working TV. There are a few guys who it might be somewhat new to. And we're back. Or do I just pretend like that didn't happen? Who cares? It happened. Look, my phone kind of took a crap on me because I have time limits set for social media. Regardless, here we are. I'm back. What I was saying was that some of the guys, a lot of the guys have worked TV before. Some of the guys haven't. So I'm sure there was an adjustment in that, because as far as the setup of the fans, you really only have them on one side. You don't have the fans on all sides in a studio taping. So it's just being able to be aware and know that you need to give attention not only to the people in house, because they paid to be there and they're an integral part of what we're doing. At the same time, the bigger audience is, of course, behind the camera. So just knowing and being savvy enough to work all sides of that, I think that might have been a challenge for some of the guys, but it was kind of second nature for the guys who've been doing it for a while.
When does this show air now? Do you know?
Tuesday nights, 6:05 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. And I know a lot of people poo-poo that, and they're like, oh, my goodness, they're not even on TV. But TV does hold a lot of there's a certain aura to it, I guess, still in this day and age. But when you consider the idea that you can still monetize digital's available everywhere, all around the world. You don't have to ask, hey, do you get what channel is it on in the UK? What channel is it on in this country? What channel is it? You have it. Everybody has YouTube on their phone. Most people have Facebook on their phone. You can get this 6:05 live Tuesday nights, and then on demand after that. You can't beat that.
See, now, I'm not going to lie to you. Here's my original thought when I heard YouTube. I go, really? I wonder if Eli would have been upset, like, after he signs the contract and then hears it's YouTube, and there's a little bit like, oh. But here's where I turned the corner on this before you jump in. Because I think I know what you're going to say. But I equate this to when I worked in radio. You know, I worked for a crappy little AM radio station where only people in like 4-block radius could hear me. But I bragged about being on the radio when I had a podcast that had way more fan interactions, way more listeners, almost 6 times as many. And I didn't brag about the podcast. But in retrospect, you know, it was more of the name value of we're on TV than the reach. YouTube, you'll probably get more of a reach than whatever network you could have negotiated on right now.
I'd absolutely agree with that. And I don't know if you caught the press conference from Hard Rock on Monday morning, but Billy had kind of outlined his plan, his vision, and the way he's looking at it. And he's right with everything he said, because he'd said that, you know, he understands that he's going to operate at a loss for the first few years, and most businesses do. As you're incurring expenses, and, you know, you have to pay your talent, and there's debts to come along with it before the real profits start to come in, because you have to build the company as it goes. So, his idea was it's very tough to sell a television show that you've never done to a TV network. And I guess you could say, well, AEW did it, but not really, because they had already set up pay-per-views and things like that. We, on the other hand, we've done pop-ups and conglomerations and things like that, but we never had our own standalone front-to-back, start-to-finish show. So the idea is we get a bunch of these episodes together. We get a bunch of them made up. They look beautiful. They look amazing. They look different than what anybody else is doing. They really do. I mean, the presentation from top to bottom, again, I didn't expect it to be as solid as it was. It's not that I expected it to be bad. I had an expectation for it to be good, and it exceeded those expectations.
I think I had the same expectations too.
Yeah, and so the idea is get a full season of this together, or whatever you want to call it, and it's a lot easier to shop your product when you have a tangible product to give them, as opposed to a concept and trying to explain it. It's much easier to lay it out when you have the evidence, as opposed to, here's my idea.
Boy, I'm now interested in seeing this because I saw the set, but the music, and now I got to see how this works. And I'm really excited about the I can't even say it right, but here's my thought is all these networks are now locked in the 5, 6, 7 year deals, depending on what network and what company you're looking at. Impact isn't moving anywhere anytime soon. Raw and SmackDown are not moving anywhere anytime soon. AEW's locked in. I'm not sure about MLW, but I'm going to guess that they probably have a year or two left on whatever television contract there is.
Do they have TV?
I thought they had. Weren't they on like WGN or something?
I don't know. I wasn't aware.
Let's pretend for a second.
Okay, sure.
But they're going to be, and I don't want to use the word victims of their own success, but they're going to be in the middle of this amazing wrestling boom where if the ratings keep going up, major TV markets will go out of their way to pay for a wrestling company, and that will put you guys into an amazing position where you will be free to go somewhere where these other companies are not.
I would agree with that, especially if you consider if AEW flourishes and if WWE does well on Fox. The one question I have about that, though, is if WWE now, Raw and SmackDown are on Fox and NXT's on USA, are they going to continue to have a working relationship with USA, or are they somehow going to move NXT over to Fox at some point?
Raw's staying on USA.
I thought Raw was going to Fox as well.
No, Raw is staying on USA. As far as
how did I mix that up?
Everybody's going to Fox.
Okay,
but I think USA is keeping Raw and NXT, which NXT is so pre-recorded. Pre-recorded wrestling on TV just doesn't work anymore.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure they're starting to do that live now.
Now I'm messing it up.
Because who was I talking to? I think it was Buddy Murphy. He was saying that now I think they're doing it live from Full Sail every week now.
Well, then that will make it so much better because nobody wants to be able to read, and that's been my complaint with Impact, which I get that they're in a position they can't really change, but that product would have been so much better if it was live.
It's so tough to do. It's so expensive. I will say at least. For probably 3 out of the 4 years that I was at Impact, we would usually do at least one episode per taping live. But I think that since the new regime took over in early 2018, they haven't been doing that at all. But it's such a huge help because especially if like a title changes hands or something. But at the same time, who gives a shit about a spoiler? Like, to me, it's like, who cares if you know the outcome? I still want to know how it happened. Like, I watched all the Star Wars prequels, but I knew where it was going. I knew that Anakin would become Darth Vader, if I can be a nerd for a second. But at the same time, I still wanted to see how it happened.
Well played on that one. I never looked at it like that. I guess I was just like, oh, now I know what happened there. I'm just not going to watch it. And I avoided because I did not watch AEW live. But if you think about it, if you go back to like when Shivani gave away that Mankind was going to win the WWF title,
didn't people they switched the channel in droves to see how that was going to happen, or if that was going to happen. So I don't know that giving the outcome matters so much. I mean, maybe to some people, but I don't know.
I don't know if it so much matters to me as in there's so much wrestling content out there to consume that if I catch a spoiler, it's now on the back burner, and whatever's next is next.
See, I don't get that, because I mean, like the wins and losses are important to some degree if you're really like getting into the story of it, which you should. But at the same time, it's really the story itself that I think is the draw. Like if I heard, I don't know, oh, this guy lost the title, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, how'd that happen? What I want to see the lead up to that. I don't know. That's just me.
All right. But I want to transition a little bit into the AEW talk here for a second, which I got to tell you, I didn't watch it live. I avoided anything on the internet spoiler-wise for it, and I came away from episode 1 very disappointed. I was not impressed with it. I thought if this was episode 13, 14, it could have been a good episode. But for number 1, for launching a television show, I thought it was very ho-hum and lackluster at best.
Well, I will say I missed it entirely, and I didn't mean to. I was busy having an argument with my lady that went on all night. So I completely couldn't just turn on the TV in the middle of that. But I will say I'm glad I didn't put any money on the TV numbers, because apparently they did over 1 million. I didn't think that they would hit that. But we'll see if they sustain that and if they can hold that going forward. But I did, just before we got on the podcast, I did catch the very end of the show, where Jake Hager came in, and it was the Bucks and it was Cody and whomever. I don't know Sammy Guevara, but he looks about 15 years old. Am I incorrect in my assessment there?
I saw him too. I don't know much about him either. To me, if you were to put All Out, All In, or whatever name over, Dynamite or Explosion or whatever you want to call this, you couldn't tell the difference. They did nothing new in this show. They didn't really introduce, other than Jack Hager or Swagger, which even then, and not to knock him, he's a nice guy, but even then, if I'm launching a television show for the first time, that's not going to be my big surprise name. The names on the show were the names we saw on everything. There was no real advancement to get you excited about a storyline. John Moxley popped up and beat the heck out of Kenny Omega? Great. We've seen this already. There was nothing new in the show, and if that's show number 1, I'm disappointed.
Well, I almost wonder if maybe, and again, I didn't see the show other than that very last segment, but I almost wonder if the John Moxley thing maybe should have been put as the last part, and only because I feel like that's probably a bigger name than Jake Hager.
Absolutely.
Not to take anything away from Jake. I've worked with him. He's awesome, nice guy. But just from, I guess, a status point of view or whatnot, I would feel like John would be just a bigger deal, bigger go home. But at the same time, like you were talking about, like not advancing or whatever. But my wonder with that is how many of that audience that caught this first TV show on TNT have seen the previous pay-per-views and whatnot. So and again, I don't even know what they did on the show, but I don't know how much more they could advance, only because they're working with a brand new blank slate in a sense. I mean, I'm sure that all their loyal, faithfuls are there. But I guess maybe they're also considering like, okay, we're going to start from square one, because we have, basically a bunch of brand new people who are probably tuning in for the first time.
Very unimpressed. And I think it will be good. And I think part of the issue was, since announcing this last October, the buildup and the excitement has been at this amazing fever pitch that everybody in the wrestling world has been chomping at their bit to watch. They debut with over 1 million views, and it just seemed like same old with him. Look, and it was a good show. It wasn't great. It wasn't phenomenal. It was good. It was very watchable. It had the WCW feel to it. But to me, that debut show where you're trying to knock it out of the park, where there's this war that's been built up, and even Cody himself, smashing thrones and mocking the Attitude Era, has even called this a war. If that was your opening punch, I might be a little bit worried.
Well, I think the one thing that they're going to hang their hat on for a while is that they beat NXT in the numbers. But I don't. Again, is that sustainable? I don't know. But I will say, on a positive note, there was something very pleasing to my ear to hear Shivani and Jim Ross calling the action. It was damn near nostalgic, but it also felt like there was some personality on the mics.
Yes, you know what? You are completely right about that. And I actually was going to come in here and want to, I don't want to use the word knock not Shivani, but knock Ross, because I don't think Ross is the same Ross that we loved in the Attitude Era. But if you can distance yourself that and appreciate Jim Ross for Jim Ross, I think right there what we listen to might be one of the best three-man booths if they can sustain it in 20 years.
Well, I would agree with that, because I think just alone with the way that Jim Ross took it home, just in that last 5 seconds or whatever, just the sell of as it was going to black, there was excitement, there was like a sense of urgency in his voice that you don't get almost anywhere else. I will just say, I not to be in the Jim Cornette camp too much, but the whole, I don't know. I know Excalibur, all that, but it's just weird having a guy in a mask and two serious legendary announcers sitting next to him.
I don't get it, but if everybody else does, then I'm okay with being the old man and going, all right, I don't get it, but I accept it.
Well, it's especially weird with no explanation, because the people who watched PWG and followed that know it. But again, if you're going to appeal to a bigger audience, a lot of people are going to be wondering, who the hell is this guy? Why is he wearing a mask? If it was Rey Mysterio, people get it. That's Rey Mysterio. But who knows Excalibur other than the people who watch PWG?
Not many, and I'll admit it. I did not know who he was until he signed on with AEW.
Yeah, so I don't know. It just seems weird to as an announcer have a gimmick like that when I don't think that the general public has a clue why you're doing what you're doing.
Do you think? Because there's going to have to be a shakeup soon if you think about how much time Jim Ross really has. Even for announcers,
are you putting the Deadpool out on Jim Ross right now?
No. I'm just saying Father Time is undefeated when it comes against any television personality, any athlete, any rock star, any wrestler. Father Time is undefeated. Jim Ross is, God, how old is he? In his 70s maybe?
Oh, man, he's got to be up there. I mean, at least 60s, right? I mean, got to be. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I need to look this up right now.
I'm doing it too. He's 67 years old.
Okay. Hey, look at that.
So
I mean, that's a lot of stress just between the travel. I mean, all that, all the
backstage work.
Stress of just like doing that live, being out there, the energies putting out. Then again, who knows? Maybe stuff like that could keep him alive in a sense. It gives him a purpose and gets him moving, I guess, in a certain sense. But who knows? Go either way.
I don't know, but I say that because at 67. Let's say realistically, because he's, the head of talent relations or something, I think, for AEW as well. So he's pulling double duty. Would you say 71, 72 would be realistically kind of winding down or end of the road for him?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I could see that kind of. You get in there, set the tone, kind of draw people in, and then maybe pass the torch at some point. Because I still don't think that there's another guy better than him currently. Dare say maybe ever. I know we differ on that, but at the same time, like if he can cultivate somebody to come up behind him. To kind of have that same passion and the sound to the cause, then yeah, man, I could see him maybe stepping back into maybe more of a producer, maybe kind of a coaching role as far as that kind of thing is concerned, while also doing like maybe talent relations or something. I don't see him going away or leaving. Maybe honestly until he dies or until he can't in some way. I just feel like it's in his blood.
Okay, I think we kind of disagree then on the longevity of how long he has, but
I'm saying as far as being in front of the camera on the microphone, you might be right. I think he'd only be there for a couple more years, but I think he would probably stay there off camera to have a role backstage.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're gonna wake up one day and they're dragging his carcass out of the arena because he can't quit wrestling.
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying. So,
right.
I just feel like right now it's just kind of like, let's draw the people in with his name, and hopefully then we can, like I said, pass the torch to somebody, cultivate somebody who can kind of maybe not necessarily emulate him, but maybe emulate his passion and his emotion and his cause.
So now that AEW comes out, it draws 1 million, and I think I was in the camp where I thought, it was a given AEW will outdraw NXT. I think, the move from the network to television was so quick, and I don't even know if they did a well enough job of promoting it that I didn't even know it.
Well, not only that, but is NXT still only 1 hour on USA and then 1 hour on the network?
I don't know. Once again,
because that's how it was the first week, and I feel like that was a big hit because it was like a lot of people were like, they keep pushing this main event, but then the people who don't have the network can't even see the damn main event.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like I said, once again, and I'm not a dirt sheet guy, so I'm not searching around for information unless the information is thrown at me. If I'm watching a show and someone goes, hey, next week NXT will be live here, and that's the only way I would know, because once again, I don't subscribe. I don't follow dirt sheets. I think whether they're right or wrong, it takes away from the surprise of wrestling. I watch wrestling to be surprised, so I don't understand why there are people out there that are searching for the information to ruin it for themselves.
Yeah.
I never figured out why people would do that. I mean, I like to be surprised. If I'm watching wrestling, and listen, I think every wrestling fan says, I want to be surprised on like every segment, which is unrealistic and not doable, but that's kind of why they watch wrestling, right? Like watching NASCAR.
Well, I mean, especially with how much wrestling content exists currently, like you could be up to your eyeballs in wrestling without having to dig into the dirt sheets and all the gossip and all that kind of stuff. Like, I guess maybe some people see that as maybe perhaps more interesting than the actual on-screen product. And maybe that's possible, but I don't know. With so much available, it's just like, who gives a shit? Just watch what's available. Like, I don't know. Like, I always loved watching wrestling on TV, but I was never, I don't know. I wasn't really searching for that much in anybody's personal life or, behind the scenes. Like, well, where's this guy's push going? It's what's the storyline going to be going down the road? Let me just watch and see how it unfolds.
I don't even know half the guys' real names unless great story. I guess I'm hanging out with PD one night and Chris Sabin comes over. Like, how stupid that Chris Sabin comes over and he's like introducing himself as Josh, and I'm like, it's Chris Sabin, right? Yeah, I didn't know because I'm hanging out with PD, and for the most part, anybody I know, kind of has a real name. Is it's stupid as that sounds, but so I don't even know where I'm going with that. But for like 2 minutes, I'm like, Josh. I'm like, Pete, what do I call him? Do I call him Chris? Do I call him Josh? And it's like,
Yeah, sometimes I don't even know what to do with that because there are plenty of guys who I know their real name and obviously I know the work name. So it's like, I kind of depends on the moment. But if I'm working with them pretty regularly, though, I'll probably call them by their work name more often just so that while we're actually on screen or something like that, I don't accidentally call them by their real name.
How do you feel when wrestlers approach you or even fans? I mean, do you have fans trying to call you by your real name?
Not really. I mean, occasionally people on like Instagram or something, like people who feel a certain familiarity with me or something, I guess, we'll say, like, there are certain people who are always commenting on my Instagram or my Twitter or whatnot. So I try to interact with them in some way, just because it's like, well, you know, that they're always there. They're always very loyal. So it's like, I feel like I have to get back in some way. And sometimes they'll just use like the shoot name. But I mean, I don't know. I don't care. To me, it's kind of like wrestling's so strange in that way. Cause it's like, we're like athlete actors. What are they, like this whole weird amalgamation of a performer. But like, you know, if we were in the movies, if you go from movie to movie to movie, chances are you're going to have different character names. But you know, when you go and do interviews, you'll do it as your shoot name. What's his name? Robert Downey Jr. isn't going and doing interviews as Iron Man. So, you know, so it's kind of a weird line to walk, because wrestling is the only form of entertainment where you kind of take your persona with you when you go to a different venue or a different company, which is kind of strange if you think about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't mind for the most part, but I mean, I guess if I was at like a meet and greet and everybody started coming up and using my shoot name, it'd be a little weird. I'd be like, all right, you're not here to see. You're here to see Eli Drake. You're not here to see Sean Ricker. You don't know him. So refer to me as such. But you had questions about the name thing last week, and I don't think we ever got to it.
That's kind of where I'm going with, you know, what's the...
Oh, I know. I follow.
Do you see where, you know, I'm easing into it? It's called transition.
Foreshadowing.
Thank you. But, yeah, see, that always confuses me about when to and when not to, and I try to let the guy introduce himself first, as weird it is, you know, when it's like, hey, what's going on? I'm Dennis. Oh, well, and you know who they are. I mean, but you don't know if they want you to call them Eli or Sean or if that's even, because I've seen people get mad because you call them by either their shoot name or their wrestling name.
Yeah, some people. The funny thing is, you don't know with some, because some will get like, if you call them by the real name, they'll be like, well, who are you? You don't know me. And it's like, well, yeah, that's why I'm using your real name. I mean, they don't say that to me, but I know that they've said that to people who aren't wrestlers. Like if another wrestler says somebody by their real name, like they don't care. But like when a fan, I've known guys who get irritated when fans will use their real name. And it's like, who gives a shit? But then, you know, there are other people who, you know, it's like, well, if the other wrestlers sometimes will use their work name, it's like, why you call me that? You can just call me whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I don't care. I will say for the most part, though, no guys call me Sean. Guys will either call me Eli, Ricker. My closest guy friends from home call me Rick. Because of the Namer of Dummies thing, like Eddie and Moose and Trevor Lee and those guys will always say dumb. D-U-M, not D-U-M-B. But only girls really use Sean.
Oh, well, that's not bad at all. What did you have a nickname growing up?
No, I mean it was just, again, like my senior year in high school, all my guy friends started calling me Rick.
Okay. See,
just because my last name.
It makes it easy. I mean, I don't really have a, you know, last name that's really cool, so no one ever called me by my last name.
I mean, is Ricker that cool?
I mean, it's a lot better than what I used to be called in high school, so yeah, I would take.
Well, now, what did you used to be called in high school?
So, I will preface this by saying, when I was a kid, I had the same size nose on my face that I have now. I just had to grow into it. So imagine this little guy with this big honking nose, and they used to call me Gonzo.
Okay.
So
all right, Gonzo.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. It's a badge of honor. I finally grew into my nose. It doesn't look.
Well, yeah,
bad.
I mean, kids always say goofy stuff. See, Ricker. When I was in like elementary school, you get Ricker the nose picker, or Dicker, or something stupid like that. So something that would rhyme with Ricker. But.
Okay.
What can you do, kids?
And I wanted to go back because and touch on this AEW point about how their first show was lackluster and didn't really excite me. And if I had to judge the entire run off the first show, I don't know if I would go back and watch it again. I mean, I'd go back because of some of the names that are there and what they've done with some of their pay-per-views.
You really were that unimpressed?
Here's the problem with it. I guess I would say yes, because it didn't seem like they treated it like a big deal. They didn't treat this show like it was the flagship, the launch, the maiden voyage. It seemed like it was episode 13. And
what do you mean?
There was nothing special. They didn't. And look, once again, not knocking the Jack Hager thing, but the show seemed like it would. If you were to take the first show, right, and put it in the middle of season 4, and that was the first show you watched, you would never have guessed it was the launch.
What if that's maybe a good thing though? Like, what if, like, it's kind of like act like you belong there, like as opposed to making like a huge deal. It's kind of like, we know what we're doing. Here's what it is. There it is.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I am really glad, because if that was the case, you have SmackDown moving to Friday night, pulling out all the stops. They have The Rock going to be on the show tonight. Stone Cold is going to be on the show tonight. Hulk Hogan's going to be on the show tonight. They are pulling out the stops. They are making it feel special because it's their first night on a new network.
But isn't it also the 20th anniversary?
Maybe, but I think it's more so that that's Fox. They're trying to bring in a big rating where I didn't get that feeling that AEW was trying. And I don't. Back to your point of if that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But if I'm watching for the first time and that's the product they give me, I don't know if I feel impressed knowing that's the first episode.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, they might also just not have a lot of stops that they're able to pull out at this point. Just as far as like not having, big firepower in star names and whatnot. I mean, I only saw that last segment, but the pop that Dustin Rhodes got just coming down the ring was pretty impressive, because I don't think he ever got that kind of a pop when he was in WWE. So they've almost made him a bigger star than he's ever been. But again, if that's your biggest star, then how special can you make that first show? Because you're really starting from the ground up in a certain sense. Whereas WWE has the history of being able to bring in Stone Cold, The Rock, Hogan, all that. But the one thing I'll say that the problem with that, those guys are all way incredibly bigger stars than anybody who's currently on the roster. And that's a problem. Because at least AEW's biggest stars are the guys who are current roster guys.
I would say that makes sense, but it would take small things. They aired the same video packages that I've seen multiple times over the last few weeks on this show. There was nothing new that they showed me.
Oh, really?
There wasn't. There wasn't any new video packages. There was no new interviews. They didn't really go out of their way to tell me that this was a special show, which it was. It just. And to me, that's my only complaint. Like I said, it was a good show if it was the 9th, 10th, 13th, 160-something show. So Dennis is the booker for AEW very first show, first night out. What would you change? First of all, there'd be different video packages that the fans have not seen yet.
I get that. That makes sense.
It's cheap, inexpensive to do that, and you have the talent. and you've had
and they've been putting together really impressive. I mean, assuming that they're the ones who put together like the Moxley packages and stuff like that. Unless he did that on his own with somebody, but that kind of stuff was really impressive. So, yeah, I would figure they have that access to that kind of talent. Go on.
I might have a championship match on the show to send it home. I think you have.
They didn't have one.
No, Jericho showed up twice and attacked someone from behind, and that was it. Or once. I don't even remember.
He didn't wrestle at all.
No, he just showed up and attacked, which I'm okay with that too. But if
because there's a line with that, because I do kind of feel like maybe with the first show out, maybe you want to have your champion wrestle, although at the same time maybe not, because that might set the standard too high in a way, because you almost cheapen it, which I think has happened for the last 20 years, where the champions are wrestling for the title week in and week out, which I think maybe takes the speciality away from it a little bit. I don't know. There's so many different trains of thought you go with that.
What else would I have done different? I don't think that Sammy Guevara guy, I don't think I would have pitted him against Cody right away.
I mean to say nothing bad about him. I've never met him. Probably the nicest guy ever. But he looks like a teenager. I'm just missing where he belongs, because I'm not sure that putting him against Cody looks right. But again, that's from me just talking from my very overly making sense brain.
No, I agree with you. I wouldn't have pitted him against him. I would have had. I don't know if I would have had Cody wrestle. I might have had Cody come out and cut some sort of passionate promo. You had other guys in the back that you could have put in that spot. I mean, they had a brief dust up, but it looked horrible between SCU and Pentagon and his brother. I mean, the talent that you had backstage that you could.
Did they have a match?
No, they just had an interview dust up and some pushing, and that was it. I think maybe a punch was thrown. I like the formation of the stable, but maybe on the first show I might have done that formation a little bit early and then have them wreak some havoc during the show to really send home that they're going to be a powerhouse.
When did that whole thing form?
Wasn't that the Jack Hager thing?
Oh, I don't know. I just didn't know if maybe he was the last addition or something.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling that it was turning into a stable there. So
I see. It definitely looked that way. I just didn't know if maybe those guys all got together earlier, and then maybe Jake Hager was the late surprise at the end of the night or something.
Boy, I hope that's not their big surprise on the episode.
See, I gotta stop. I just gotta start watching some shit. I don't know what's going on. I just catch little snippets.
Yeah, you need to get back into it. I think now, and not heavily. I think you could sit in traffic or sit in a waiting room and watch the 6-minute YouTube Cliff Notes highlight version of shows, and you would be just up to date as spending 3 hours watching them.
Yeah, it's so weird, because it's if I'm not in it, I just don't give a shit. And usually I'm watching political stuff anymore. Political stuff or stock stuff.
Yeah. And how's the stocks going?
You know what? I didn't make any moves today because I didn't find anything that I was very, very certain of. So I'm learning great patience. My last move that I made was very, very good. I saw something that gapped up, and I made a nice chunk of change on it.
Interesting.
But maybe I think my next move might be politics, with as passionate as I've become about it. So who knows? We'll see.
Really?
Might move to my old hometown in Maryland and run for mayor.
Is it teasing, or are you serious about that?
Well, it's funny because a couple of my friends maybe a year ago had run the idea by me. They're like, dude, you'd win easily just on name recognition alone, but also the fact that you grew up here forever, whatever. And just the fact that I'm a good speaker and with the views and all this, whatever. And so, I gave it a thought, but I was just like, man, I don't know if I'm ready to move back there right now, but who knows? Never say never. It's a possibility.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Because here's the thing, because I do a show with Dave Chris and Jason Kindle, who was a former Major League Baseball player for 12 years. And now he's kind of in the running to be the next Pittsburgh Pirate manager. So that would be kind of cool to have a show with a Pirate manager and a mayor of Baltimore, Maryland.
That's crazy. Hell yeah. Well, it would be Hagerstown, not Baltimore. I'm not that big city.
Not yet.
It's a small little town in Western Maryland.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think. Listen, I think you right here, right now, announce your candidacy.
Well, first I'd have to move my ass back to Maryland, so can't do that quite yet.
Listen, you're a politician now. You just open up a P.O. box up there.
They'll be like, "Oh, this carpetbagger! I can't believe him. He moved away and left us for dead."
You know what you say? I was getting cultured for you people.
That's right.
I went out there. I didn't want to go to L.A. I did it for you.
Seeing the world.
Yeah. Do you want a small town guy that hasn't lived and experienced to be your next mayor? No.
Hey, well, you never know. You get some closed-minded people, but who knows? The only thing is, I retired from winter a long time ago. I only like to get little tastes of winter when I go home for the holidays, or if I decide to go snowboarding or something. Otherwise, this year-round kind of spring with a little touch of summer that we get in LA is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Gosh, I miss only having like 1 or 2 seasons. So let's wrap this up. I guess we'll do Blue Chew here in a second. But is there anything else this week in wrestling that we didn't talk about? We should.
Oh man, wrestling. I nothing that comes to mind. Again, the NWA tapings were just something beyond what I can describe, and I can't wait for people to see it.
How was Billy? I mean, I assume that you had some FaceTime with him.
Yeah, we actually we had a minute to kind of sit down and talk. I was warming up some food and just hanging out, and he made it a point to come and talk to me to give me I guess a further idea of the direction that he wants to go and what he wants to do, and with me in particular and whatnot. Which most of it I was aware of, but he was kind of just I guess, giving me more fine details and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, he was good. He was great. I mean, as far as I really liked being able to be there firsthand at the press conference and being able to hear again his philosophy and his view on what he's looking to do and how he's planning on running this and advancing it forward. Because, going into it, it's I hear a rough idea, and he's a busy guy, and I try not to bother people too much. So mostly I speak through him through Lagana. But, so hearing most of this firsthand, it was very refreshing, reassuring, and at the same time, I mean, it's not like I'm having an issue getting paid every month. So as long as that's coming in and we're continuing to move forward, I am a happy boy.
Is he going to, and I mean, the Billy Corgan, have a on-roll television role on the program?
On screen, I don't think so. And he was very particular about that, because he was saying that, he's heard the criticism before where people were saying it was a vanity project. And he was saying, well, it can't be very much of a vanity project if I'm not even putting myself on an on-screen role. And he wasn't on screen whatsoever. I think he might have gone out off camera and spoken to the audience just to thank them for coming there and things like that. And he did the meet and greet. Because, of course, he is a draw in a sense. But no, he's actually kept himself off, at least for this set of tapings. And I would guess, unless there's a very specific call for him or something like that, I mean, perhaps it stays that way.
I think they're missing out not having him do something just because of the name value and the clout that he brings himself. Maybe,
but what do you think they would do with him?
I don't think he could be a manager. I don't think he would have the clout to do that.
But it would be weird having him be a manager anyway, just with the fact that he's
the owner.
Office. And I think that if we are going to do something different, we got to stay away from doing the office gimmick, doing the GM gimmick.
You don't think something like the old school Jack Tunney, where you only saw him
that could be fine.
That's what I think he would that would be perfect. Where
but you saw Jack Tunney maybe once a year,
yes.
twice a year, something like that. Whereas like nobody, I think the time for the week in week out company owner, MGM, whatever the hell you want to call it, that's so overdone, so passe. And I really hope that if we are going to continue to do something different, which to this point, and I know we're still in our infancy, we have done something completely different. And with that being the case, please, I'm asking you now, Billy, please don't do a regular GM role with anybody. No GMs, no owners, no presidents, no nothing, unless it's, again, like a Jack Tunney thing where it's like once or twice a year in very important big-time cases.
That's the only way I could see him doing it. And that's, you know what, it would work if you got the occasional letter. This comes from the office of Billy Corgan. Billy says, this week he's got to defend the title. The only time I want to see him is if he's coming to strip somebody or coming to force somebody into a big pay-per-view match. And,
yes.
And that's it. And advertise it a week in advance. Oh, this week Billy Corgan's going to be in the ring to settle this matter, the one matter, the big season-ending matter.
Yeah, there was a big controversial decision. Ric Flair came out and interfered with Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker, so Jack Tunney has to be there for that. Stuff like that. Or he's going to be there for the contract signing between Hogan and Andre or whatever it is. But something very, very rare, but it makes it feel important and big. But when the GM or the president or whoever, whatever you want to call it, is there every single week, it's not that important. It was earth-shattering and different when you had Eric Bischoff in there with the NWO, or you had Mr. McMahon and all that stuff. But now it's just been overdone so much for the last 20 years. We've got to let that go.
Yeah, Gosh, you couldn't have said it any better. And speaking of letting it go, this episode is presented by Blue Chew. Head over to BlueChew.com. Use the promo code Perspective.
Let it go.
Oh, yes.
Let it go.
Look, I'm single now.
Go ahead.
I'm
just going to sing in the background here while you do it. Go ahead.
I'm single. I'm loading up on the Blue Chew because...
Load it up.
Because soon there's going to be many, many disappointed women all around Michigan.
Oh, we got a man on the street with a loaded gun.
Oh, 41 and ready to party. That's it.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Now, look, I'm going to have my own place. I'm going to be single. The women.
There he is.
Oh. But you know what? With Blue Chew, ain't nobody disappointed. There's going to be a line out my door, and I'm not going to be tired unless I don't start doing cardio. But
41 loaded and ready for fun.
That's right. With Blue Chew, I'm going to feel like I'm 22 again.
That's right.
I'm laying the pipe throughout Michigan. Watch out, ladies.
Oh, boy.
Watch out, ladies. But it wouldn't happen without Blue Chew. So if you use that promo code, you get your first order for free. You just pay $5 shipping and handling. And I would have given it to you for free with it. But, Eli said, whoa.
When those girls come over, you're going to give it to them for free? Yeah.
By number 9, they're going to pay me, Eli.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's right. But I would have given you the Blue Chew for free, but Eli said, I'm not doing this podcast unless people have to pay $5 for shipping and handling.
That's right.
I don't know why. Why is that, Eli?
I mean, look, postage, it's very important. You got to pay the government, pay your fair share. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
It sounded good. I was along with you on that ride. I liked what you were laying down there. But go to Blue Chew, use all that stuff, make everybody happy, keep the show going, more importantly. And truthfully, Eli, I don't care if they use it, don't use it, give it to a friend, make your spouse happy, give it to your spouse so she can make her boyfriend happy. I don't care. Just order. Get your own
Kavorka with some Blue Chew, baby.
That's right. But either way, order it from us. Make us happy. Keep the show going. Now that the NWA tapings are out of the way, you're in full swing. How often are you guys taping?
I don't believe we'll be back until December this next time because we did a bunch of them.
All right. So look for those tapings in December. What do you have coming up?
Man, that's a great question. I'm pretty clear for the next couple weeks, honestly. I don't have a lot of anything coming up. December 14th, I think we're going to have a live pay-per-view coming from Atlanta. And otherwise, it's just kind of I'll be plugging away all the NWA shows as they come out, 6:05 p.m. on Tuesday nights. And otherwise, I've done all my indie dates that I had set up. Those are done now that I'm exclusive with NWA. Although you can still book me, you just have to book me through David Lagana, Billy Corgan, and the NWA. So at this moment, though, I am completely free and clear until December 14th.
Are you going to watch the first episode when it comes out?
Hell yeah, I am.
Okay. I was
because again, I was there, I felt it. You could see on the monitor what was going on, but I'm telling you, it was just so much different and better than I had expected that now I want to see the finished product.
Was it like Impact where, depending on where they filmed, and I was at many different arenas, but there was always a good group of guys that stood in front of the monitor and watched it, or was it kind of different? Well,
there were a couple different dressing rooms, and each dressing room had a monitor in it. And most of the guys, with it being in the dressing rooms, it was kind of like everybody was watching from in there, or if they were just getting ready to go out, there was another monitor at the gorilla position. So, everybody was kind of paying attention to what was going on. At the same time, everybody was so busy because, we were doing a few episodes a day, and so a lot of people had. I know I had multiple appearances on multiple episodes. So sometimes I'd be on one episode twice, or another one I'd be on, maybe once, two times, whatever. But it was it was constantly moving. So there wasn't a lot of downtime to even sit and kind of watch what was going on in the show. Like I said, because there were no long drawn out entrances, it had such a solid flow to it.
That's interesting. I like that because there was one TV, and it was kind of out by the gorilla position and in the middle of catering. So it created a traffic jam at times because people wrapped around it. And then depending on where we were, if you were in St. Clair College, the locker rooms it felt like, I don't know, 80, 90 steps away around the corridor, very, very roped off from everything else.
Yeah, and the way this was set up was very different because it wasn't like you were kind of you weren't walking in front of anybody. To get to the monitor, you had to go essentially to the back of the room, whichever room it was that you were in where you were watching the monitor, because just the way they were set up. So it was a lot more advantageous in that sense. All
right, well, let's wrap this up. That's advantageous. I like that. Wrestling Perspective. Go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. You can get the podcast, everything there. You can also go to Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, radio.com. Any place you get your podcast, that's where we are. Just search Wrestling Perspective, search Eli Drake. It'll
How about the TuneIn app?
We're there too.
That's what I have.
Wow. If you listen to podcasts, you would listen to it there.
There you go.
So there you go. Eli, where can people find you?
Well, first and foremost, I want everybody to follow the NWA YouTube page and the Facebook page so that at 6:05 p.m. Eastern Time this Tuesday night and every Tuesday night going forward, you can catch NWA Power. And you'll catch myself. I'll be on there along with my kooky cast of characters. And you can also catch me on Instagram and Twitter at the Eli Drake. And you can get some beautiful new T-shirts with my face or my name or anything else on it at ProWrestlingTees.com/Eli Drake.
There we go, guys. This week's Wrestling Perspective. See you next week.